You can create, I guess, the culture of hate that you want, and that's fine. But right now, they're entangled with the federal government, and they're going to have to deal with the president.
Imagine being the only adult at a kindergarten table where everyone thinks they're policy experts. Yeah, that's Scott Jennings every time he sits down at CNN. He's surrounded by what I'd call less of a panel and more like the island of misfit talking points. Let's roll a clip. This one's too good to miss.
Happened so far this week. The number of things that certainly Democrats are basically apoplectic about. How do you see this confrontation with Harvard and other elite institutions fitting in?
So a confrontation with an institution like Harvard is one where Trump has picked a very ripe target. Confidence in higher education has really been plummeting in this country over the last decade. Even as recently as 2015, Gallup found a majority of Republicans said when you asked, do you have confidence in higher education? They said yes. And those numbers have fallen. They've fallen precipitously for Republicans, but also for Democrats. And I think part of the problem is, to quote Office Space, the question of what is it you would say you do here? That for a lot of institutions of higher education, that's not a question that they've clearly answered. And so when you ask people, why don't you have confidence? They think they've veered too far off mission. Some of these institutions, as you noted, they contain multitudes, right? They do great things like cancer research, but they have other things that I think a lot of taxpayers may be saying, I don't know if I want to fund this. Trump has sensed that, and that's why he views them as such a good target.
I will say, Lulu, these institutions of higher learning have educated an awful lot of the bipartisan people who come here to Washington and end up in positions of power.
I was about to say, it's always surprising to me that Harvard is like put as this kind of liberal bastion when you think about a number of Republicans and Wall Street executives who've gone there.
Yeah, well, we can put up a number of the Trump allies who attended Harvard. Now, I will say that the youngest of those that you see on your screen are about my age, so they're elder millennials, so perhaps a lot has changed in the intervening time. But I think, I really take Kristen's point, right? For the middle of the country, beating up on Harvard is not a problem for them, right? But on the other hand, there does seem to perhaps be some hypocrisy going on as well.
I mean, I think to Kristen's point, and we saw this with the DEI fight, there was a reason that they did that first with Harvard, affirmative action, et cetera. Harvard is a ripe target. If you've never been there and you always know people who've been to Harvard, they'll tell you in the first 5 seconds that they went to Cambridge. They were in Cambridge. It's very annoying to the rest of us.
They went to a college outside Boston. I actually went to Cambridge, the original, for graduate school. So some people will say this to me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not as highbrow as those of you who went to the second Cambridge, at least.
So you can see, just even in our conversation, it brings up some animus. But
it's hilarious watching these leftist apologists scramble to defend Harvard now that Trump is forcing a choice. Take federal money or keep pushing woke ideology while creating an unsafe environment for Jewish students. And if going to Harvard means I end up thinking like the people on this panel, then go ahead and count me out. I'll take common sense over an Ivy League brainwash any day. I'll save the $300K tuition. I'll just read bumper stickers and still come out smarter.
The wider context within which this sits is, of course, what is the purpose of what the administration is doing here? And we know from Chris Rufo, from Project 2025, and other ideas that have been put out there that they want to really take down anything that is viewed as the quote-unquote liberal establishment. And so what the administration asked of Harvard wasn't just about anti-Semitism. They asked things that were about who they admit, who gets tenure, things that are quite frankly, not the remit of the federal government. And if you think about how Republicans have accused Democrats over and over again of weaponizing government, of weaponizing the federal government, here we're seeing this administration actually push into something that has never really been done in the same way before.
I mean, Scott Jennings, that seems like a fair point. I mean, if Democrats were doing this in a way that conservatives felt like was taking on some of their interests in these higher institutions, I feel like I would hear you talking about, hey, government's supposed to be more limited.
Why would Democrats be complaining about Harvard? Like 96% of the political contributions from the faculty go to Democrats from Harvard. There's no diversity of thought among the faculty there. And by the way, I should say, I've had some experience with it. I was a fellow at the IOP. Kristen was as well. I taught a class at the Harvard Kennedy School for a number of semesters. I had a good experience, but I think...
But no diversity of thought, apparently.
But I think in recent years, particularly since October the 7th, the civil rights of these Jewish students on campus have clearly been violated. I don't think the university, Harvard, Columbia, a lot of these other Ivies have taken near enough steps to protect these students. They've been chased around campus, barred from buildings. Buildings have been taken over. I mean, it's ridiculous what's going on. And here's the deal. They take federal money. They have a $53 billion endowment. They take federal money. If you want to continue to take federal money, you're going to have to listen to the people who dole it out. And that's the Trump administration who are standing up for these Jewish students. If they want to give up the federal money, you can create, I guess, the culture of hate that you want, and that's fine. But right now, they're entangled with the federal government, and they're going to have to deal with the president.
Boom. Scott Jennings didn't just call them out. He body slammed their entire argument with facts and backbone. He said it plain. You want federal money? Then act like a federal partner. You don't get to host Hamas sympathy protests on campus while cashing checks from Uncle Sam. And when the panel tried to spin it into a teary-eyed detour about cancer research, Jennings snapped them right back to reality. This isn't about ovaries, it's about accountability. Harvard's problem isn't funding, it's moral rot. You don't get to rake in billions while your campus turns into a playground for anti-Semitism. Trump's not just at war with Harvard, he's waging war on elite hypocrisy. So do the smart thing. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts below. Are you with Trump on this one or not?